back to our channel, Neophytes. Today, we're looking at the Enneagram Six, also known as the Loyalist or Cowardice. Naranjo described this type as fundamentally structured around fear. However, that fear can show up in dramatically different ways depending on the subtype. We'll explore the core structure of the Six, and then dive into the three subtypes: the self-preservation, the social, and the sexual Six. Fear is the central passion of Type 6, not just circumstantial fear, but deep existential fear. The sense that the world is unsafe and they themselves are not prepared or strong enough to meet its challenges. This fear fuels constant self-questioning, leading to what Naranjo calls accusation or self-rejection. Sixes internalize a harsh superego that judges and doubts them endlessly. They defend themselves through their splitting, separating their feelings, thoughts, and instincts, and often end up overthinking as a way to avoid dangerous action. For Enneagram Sixes, fear doesn't just cause anxiety, it becomes their compass. Imagine arriving in an unfamiliar land without a map. Every shadow, every sound, every movement feels like a possible threat. For Sixes, this scanning becomes second nature. Fear becomes the guide. Be careful, you're in danger. Watch out, someone is against you. Don't trust what you see. This vigilance creates a false sense of safety, but at the cost of spontaneity and peace. Although the three subtypes look very different on the surface, they all share an emotional common ground: chronic anxiety, distrust of others, and a feeling of unworthiness. Sixes often project their fear outward, believing others are dangerous instead of facing their own insecurity. They also tend to interject the aggressor, identifying with authority or criticism as a way to predict and control it. Deep down, they all carry the core distortion of self-rejection. I'm bad, I can't be trusted, and I'll be punished if I act freely. Authority is a central theme for all Sixes. Childhood experiences of humiliation, punishment, or rejection often form the root of their fear. Authority becomes a source of both protection and threat. The self-preservation Six seeks protective figures they can lean on. The social Six idealizes rules, ideology, or systems as a substitute for personal authority, and the sexual Six challenges or imitates authority, becoming intimidating themselves. In each case, the Six is caught between obedience and rebellion, always ambivalent towards power. Emotionally, the self-preservation Six is the most sensitive of the three. They want to feel held and safe, but they distrust that safety the moment it arrives. They live in a state of anticipated anxiety, always asking what could go wrong. Their anger is heavily repressed. Instead of direct confrontation, it may leak out passively or explode after long periods of compliance. Their friendliness masks an inner world of worry, self-doubt, and insecurity. They are often dreamers rather than doers, using fantasy to escape their fears rather than taking decisive action. The SP6 frequently idealizes protective figures, only to feel betrayed when those figures fail them. They often hide truths in order to please others and avoid abandonment, leading to what Naranjo calls false companionship. Their lives are full of contradictions. They long for intimacy but fear dependency. They want safety but distrust it when it's given. They present themselves as harmless but carry suppressed anger. At their core, SP6s are looking for a home, a safe base they can never quite believe in. The social Six organizes their life around rules, systems, and duty. For them, safety is found not in individuals, but in belonging to an ideology, a cause, or a group. They are the most intellectual and moralistic subtype, using discipline and perfectionism to keep the fear at bay. They often replace family with symbolic families, political movements, religious groups, or communities that suit their ideologies. Their loyalty is to systems, and they draw strength from the authority of rules. However, their idealism can easily shift to disillusionment, leading them to jump from group to group. Their emotional life revolves around loyalty, duty, and moral correctness. They repress spontaneity because it feels dangerous. They fear being exposed as imperfect, so they overcompensate by being critical of others. Anger comes out through judgment and often is disguised as principled critique. They can seem rigid, authoritarian, or fanatical, but underneath is the same six anxiety and guilt. Their sense of worth depends on being admired for their competence and dutifulness. Social sixes are what Naranjo calls Prussian characters, rigid, ideological, and disciplined. They may act as second-in-commands, loyal servants of authority, or moral crusaders defending rules. They can be cold and formal, projecting as paternal or guiding images to others, but at the cost of their own tenderness. Their suppressed anger often gets discharged onto those weaker than themselves, while they remain obedient to those above them. They live in fear of failing in their duties, yet can become aggressive when their ideals are threatened. The sexual six, also known as the counterphobic six, channels fear into aggression and bravado. Unlike the compliant self-preservation six or the rule-bound social six, the sexual six pushes directly against fear. They seek to embody strength, independence, and heroism. They admire toughness and often cultivate physical or intellectual power as armor. Their strategy is to attack before being attacked, making them seem intimidating or even like a type 8. However, beneath the surface, the same shame and fear of weakness drives them. The sexual six lives with constant inner tension. They use anxiety as fuel, throwing themselves into challenges and dangers in order to prove strength. They deny any need for help or protection and often scorn those who show vulnerability. Their aggression is reactive, a barking dog, always on guard, attacking to cover fear. They often take up causes or crusades against injustice, projecting their inner battle onto the external world. At their best, they can be courageous defenders of others. At their worst, authoritarian and controlling. Their relationships reveal their ambivalence. At first, they appear seductive, proactive, and protective. But once trust is built, their need to control and dominate surfaces. They often hide resentment behind friendliness or act omnipotent in order to mask insecurity. They admire heroes and strive to be seen as fearless themselves, but deep down, they are terrified of being exposed as weak. This counterphobic mask creates a paradox. They are brave, but their bravery is fueled by fear itself. All sixes struggle with chronic anxiety, though it takes different forms. The self-preservation six procrastinates and becomes paralyzed by decisions. The social six obsesses and intellectualizes, spinning an analysis. The sexual six reacts impulsively, charging into danger to deny their weakness. In all cases, however, the same restless vigilance is at play, scanning their horizon for threats, doubting themselves, and second-guessing every move. Guilt and suspicion form the background noise of their lives. Because direct aggression feels risky, sixes often express it indirectly. The self-preservation six represses until they explode. The social six criticizes, moralizes, or judges. The sexual six confronts more directly but still masks fear with bravado. All three use irony, sarcasm, or biting humor as an outlet. These jokes create momentary release, but are followed by guilt for being too harsh. This double-edged humor is both a weapon and bonding tool. It protects them from fear while pulling others into complicity. The transformation path of the Enneagram Six involves recognizing the fear of fear itself, seeing how much of their life is ruled by imagined danger. Transformation means reconnecting thought, feeling, and instinct, rather than splitting them apart. This means learning to trust their own inner authority instead of projecting it outward onto rules, leaders, and protective figures. When sixes reclaim trust in themselves, their loyalty and vigilance transform into courage. They become reliable, grounded, and deeply committed to what matters most. And that's our Enneagram 6. Thanks for coming to our chat here. These are our Discord and social media account. We only have the YouTube at the moment. We do have a blog going. If you'd like access to that, go ahead and join our server and give us a boost, and you'll have access to that. We'll see you next time.